So learn all new features in C# 10. This is the part 2. Previously we have seen some record structs and what's new in structs, and in this lecture we are going to see the following: interpolated string handlers, global using directives, and file scoped namespace. All of these three are new addition with C# 10. So over to the actual changes, and please go through the entire video and you will come up with some interesting and useful coding, and all my code will be available down below in the description of this video and in my blog site. So I have put a link. So what is a string interpolation? It provides a more readable, convenient syntax to format strings, and it uses the $symbol special character that identifies a string literal. The string literal may contain interpolation expressions like within curly braces name in the code snippet, and name is a variable. So it will evaluate the value of the variable. For example, this is a code snippet: string name equals mark, and variable date var date equals datetime.now. This is the current time. And there are two types of formatting. Earlier, before the string interpolation came into being, we used to have a composite formatting, which looks like this: console.writeLine, hello, and with this within curly braces 0 and within curly braces 1, curly braces 2. This was used to be filled by the right hand side name with the variable's name, and then one in that order, date dot day of week, and then 2 with date. So it used to act as a placeholder. So that was composite formatting. Now in string interpolation we have it like this: console.writeLine. Now instead of we are using here the dollar symbols, which is a special character to notify that it is a string literal, and here instead of 0, 1, 2, we are actually evaluating the variable's name, date, and or the part of the date straight away by putting them in curly braces. So it's not required to write it as placeholder anymore, which is to be followed by the chain of the variables. So let's see all this in action. Now both of these above calls produce similar output, which is similar to hello Mark, today is Wednesday, it is 1940 now, whereas it could vary. Like I have just run the program a few minutes back and it says hello Mark, today is Tuesday, it is 2049 now, it is 2049 now. And where was the code? The code was again on my Visual Studio, which I will bring. So this was the code snippet I wrote in the program file. So this is the code snippet I pasted, and when I clicked either of these two buttons, start without debugging or just start, I got this output. Okay. Now again, coming back to this code snippet, if you look at these two formatting, this composite formatting and string interpolation, you would definitely say that this will be looking elegant and easier to read. So beginning with C#, when an interpolated string is used, the compiler checks if the interpolated string is assigned to a type that satisfied the interpolated string handler pattern. An interpolated string handler is a custom type that converts the interpolated string into a string or processes the placeholder expression in an interpolated string. Without a custom handler, the placeholders are processed similar to string.format, and each placeholder is formatted as text, and then the components are concatenated to form the resulting scene. So we'll not, at the moment, we'll not delve into string.format, but we'll actually see an example. We'll build something, a use case scenario. Okay, so one of the use case scenarios could be you may require none of the resulting strings to be greater than some limit, such as 80 characters. You can process the interpolated strings to fill a fixed length buffer and stop processing once that buffer length is reached. And also you may have a tabular format and each placeholder must have a fixed length. A custom handler can enforce that rather than forcing all client code to conform to those rules. Okay, so let's have an initial implementation of Visual Studio. So we'll switch over to Visual Studio now. Now what we'll do, we'll switch over to our what's new in C# that we have been working in from the last lecture, part 1, and I will click right click the project and add a new class, add a class and name it logger. So it will create a logger class for me, internal class logger, and I have some code which I will paste straight away to this. So I'll override after highlighting the internal class logger default code with the code that I have on my clipboard. So this consists of an enum log level, which is the level of the logging level of critical error warning information trace, and it's a public class logger. Right. So this logger supports 6 different levels, as you can see. When a message won't pass the log level filter, there is no output. The public API for the logger accepts a fully formatted string as the message. All the work to create the string has already been done. Now, to implement the handler pattern, an interpolated string handler which you shall build that recreates the current behavior is a type that must have the following characteristic. And system.runtime.compilerservices.interpolated string handler attribute is applied to the type. So again, now the interpolated string handler is a type that must have the following characteristic, as I was telling. So what are these characteristics? System.runtime.compilerservices.interpolated string handler attribute is applied to the type, and it should have a constructor that has 2 int parameters, literal length and format count, as we will see shortly, and a public append literal method with the signature public void append literal with a string passed in, and a generic public append formatted method with the signature public void returns a void append formatted type T, which is a generic type, and within braces, circular braces T, type T with a specific generic type. Okay, now I've got some code on my clipboard and I will paste it in the logger class just to save a lot of time typing. Okay, so just for brevity I will paste it below the log message, and I'll save this. So you can see that it does have append literal method which passes, which takes allows a string s and it returns a void, and another append formatted method which has got a generic type T. Okay, and then there is an internal string get formatted text which is the builder dot to string, which is the builder is the string builder. Now interpolated string handler, see here, if you look at it, it is asking for a potential fix. So it needs a potential fix, which is the addition of a namespace using system.runtime.compilerservices. Okay, so if I click here, keep the light bulb icon. Where is the light bulb icon gone? So it's now added system.runtime.compilerservices. Okay, so what happens here is that as I have explained, So a interpolated string handler type, this attribute needs to be there, which indicates the attribute type is to be used as an interpolated string handler. Okay. Now next we add an overload to the log message. Log message is this method in the logger class. We'll add an overload to the log message, and we'll copy and paste a code that I have got on my clipboard, and which is this public void log message. See, name is the same, signature is different. It actually enters, it allows a builder which is of log interpolated string handler type builder. Okay. So what is log interpolated string handler? So this is a log interpolated string handler. This was a struct which is a reference type, which has everything, all the code that was written. Okay. So this was actually working with this attribute interpolated string handler, and log interpolated, this is the public constructor for this struct, which is of reference type, and it takes the literal length and the formatted count, which was one of the conditions, and it creates a new string builder, passes in the literal length, and writes to the console literal length with the string interpolation. Now you know the string interpolation is $ is a literal sign, and it fills the literal length and formatted count for formatted count. Okay, the passed in variables to the method. Right. Now here we haven't removed the original log message method, and we have allowed this to stay in conjunction with the overloaded log message method, as the compiler will prefer a method with an interpolated handler parameter which has a string builder over, it has got a string builder type, this is the string builder, okay, over a string, over a method with the string parameter when the argument is an interpolated string expression. Okay, now we will write a test class, test method. So now I have created a static void entry. This is a main method, and I have actually pasted the code that I have got on my clipboard. So we have initialized the logger object, and we have enabled label is log level dot warning. Enabled label is this enum. Okay, log level dot warning, and date time dot now is the is assigned to the variable time variable, and logger dot log message log level dot error level current time, this is an error, it will be printed, and trace log level dot trace level current time, this won't be printed, and log level dot warning, because it doesn't have any interpolation string, this is warning a string, it is not an interpolated string expression. And why trace level will not be printed? Because trace is actually at a higher level than error. So what was the log message? If enabled label is less than level, so enabled label here was error and level was trace, so error is lower than trace, so it returned, so it didn't write anything on the console, and that's why it said this won't be printed. Whereas in the previous case it was passed as error. Now error is equal to error, so this would have actually written it, because if you go back to the log message, and this is interpolated string handler, which is a builder object, okay, it is being passed because it is a interpolated string. These are two both interpolated string with the dollar literal. Okay, so in the previous case for error, it was If enable label less than level, then only return, and if it is equal to or more, that means else, it would write a formatted text. Okay, so that's what it did. Now builder, that is the string builder object, and it calls the get formatted text. Now this get formatted text, it comes from here. This is a just an internal string. It returns whatever the content of the builder, the string builder dot to string. So it converts it into a string and returns the string. Okay. So let's run the application by clicking this Control F5. Now if you trace through this output, this is expression. Okay, so if you debug through this by putting breakpoints throughout, you can easily verify what I am saying. Okay, so again I will repeat what I have found out with tracing the application. The compiler adds a call to construct the handler, passing the total length of the literal text and the number of placeholders, which is the literal length and the formatted count. Then the compiler adds calls to append literal and append formatted. It will be very easy if you go through the process of putting starting from the beginning. Start debugging from here, put the breakpoint over here, and if you click on this green arrow, let me see, I will debug through a little bit. Okay, then I'll leave it to you to do the list of debugging, and then by F11, so this is the debugging format. So this is, it has hit this breakpoint, and then if you click on step into F11, okay, so it has gone to get the log level, which is an error, and then it will again, if you go for F11, it will come back here, and then again F11, the way you could do the usual debugging. Step F11, so it will take now it has moved to the next line of the code in the main method, so it has already got this logger object. Okay, so and it will go for the, if you go for the next step F11, it will get the next code, and see, it has got already the time. It is 30/11/2021 current time, and I am sure it will get this logger object also will be there. Yes, it is. Enable level warning. Okay, and similarly, if you not by clicking continue, but by clicking F11, this one, debug, and clicking F11 or clicking through the debug icon F11, so whatever way you prefer, which is easier for you. So if we press F11 button from my laptop or machine, it will be quicker actually. Builder is new string builder. Next, I have not put the breakpoint, but it's already come. Its flow of control of this program is automatically being guided by the construction of this application. So it has already got a new string builder object, and it is on the console.writeLine. It is on the console. It is writing. If you click on next F11, it will write its first message on the console, which is, let's see, literal length 65, formatted count is 1. So see, literal length is formed over here. It has been passed 65, and formatted count is 1. Alright, so likewise, if you continuously debug this application through F11, it will run through the entire output that I have already shown you. Okay, so next we switch over to the next new thing in the C# language, which is going to be the global using directive. So for global using directive, I'll have to again switch over to my machine, to the project that we are building. Now the using directive allows, for all of you who are used to this using statement from the earlier versions of Visual Studio and .NET, this using statement allows us to use types defined or used in a namespace without writing the fully qualified namespace of that type. This is in usage since the C# version 1 and put at the top of every single CS file in a project. So as a simple example for writing console.writeLine, we can write console.writeLine hello world, right, in the program.cs, right? So if you uncomment this, it will work if you make this as the startup object program class. But it assumes that there is a using statement using system already. So if using system is not there explicitly, then you have to write system.console.writeLine hello world instead of just getting away with console.writeLine. So that's no big deal writing system.console.writeLine, but you wouldn't expect anyone to have to write system.collection.generic.list of system.threading.tasks.task of system.io.stream. I mean, instead you'd simply like to use list of task and task of stream. Okay, so we can see that using the using statements, these using statements declutter the code. Okay, then what is the big deal in keeping using statements in every file as you used to do in the past? The downside is that the C# files often start with a load of using directives. Like, if you create any class, it will be always cluttered with a lot of using statement. Some of them are not going to be used at any time. Okay. So when we add a class to our project, some of these using statements are present by default, irrespective of if they would be required ever in that file or in a class contained in a C# file. Some people consider this to be a mere noise, meaningless ceremony to be trudged through before you can get to the real content. So, however, C# 10 uses a new global using directive language feature so that we don't have to write the same using directives again and again in hundreds of files. So we turn an ordinary using directive into a global one by adding a global modifier. So like global using system. So how do we do it? So in this project, what I shall do is that I will create a new file. Okay, let's add a new class. So global using, okay, and in this class I'll paste some of the code. Okay, get rid of the existing code, default code, and I'll paste this global using system.runtime.compiler services and system.text. Okay, so these two classes, you can see that they were used in here. So now if we get rid of these using statements from this file and save it, Control S, indent it a little bit. Okay, so we can see that we can still build this application. Click on build solution, it will still be building. Okay, there is no red squiggly line, there is no syntax error because we have put it in a global using statements, right? Likewise, you can put any number of using statement writing global keyword in front of it, and that will be used anywhere within the project scope, any class file. Right. Now, thirdly, there is a file scoped namespace declaration. The namespace keyword, this namespace keyword, is used to declare a scope that contains a set of related objects. You can use a namespace to organize code elements and create globally unique types. Okay, so just like that, namespace is organizing code on this class. You can have public enum, public class logger, etc. Or you can also write like this. So writing namespace like this till the C#9, you could nest one namespace within another namespace, okay, by simply indenting it and putting curly braces within this outer namespace and curly brace within the inner namespace. But in C#, what you can do instead of this, you can, let me write below this. So you can simply write a namespace, sample namespace with a semicolon, and if you write a namespace was still containing class, interface, struct, enum, delegate, etc. So you can still write like this without putting the set of curly braces, which will eat up some space. You can just write it like this. You can indent it, okay, and tab it like this. It will still build, but only thing you cannot do is that you cannot nest another namespace within this namespace. So this will actually save some indenting space, horizontal, vertical space, as well as the horizontal space. And because Microsoft's experience over the last 20 years is that a file would only contain one namespace ever. Though it was permitted to have a nested namespace within another namespace, or you can write another namespace below this namespace, it still be valid. But it was not never used. 99.9% of the coders, developers all over the world would ever write one namespace in one file and write all the classes and other things within that namespace, single namespace. So they have got rid of writing like this, and they have implemented a namespace to be written like this, file scope namespace with a semicolon, and you can start writing your classes, interface, etc. without having to be contained within a pair of curly braces. Now to test this, let's go back to our with expression x, which we have actually covered in the last lecture, previous lecture, and here I have written it like this. Now rearrange this, and you can see that it will still build. There isn't, with the file scope namespace like this written, it will still build. So there's no squiggly line, so it will still build. However, let's now see whether this feature, the features that I have told today, like global using statement, file scope namespace, and string interpolation, how do I know that this was not a feature for the earlier versions? It's simply making this as version 9. If you try to run this application, it will come up with some errors which will straight away tell you that these features were not available in no. Okay, there are build errors. I don't want to build based on last. So see, feature global using directive is not available in C#9. Please use language version 10 or greater. Feature file scope namespace is not available. Okay, if I just make it a little big, you can see that. Can I magnify this? Control plus. Anyway, it's not allowing me to magnify, but if you can see, these features are not available with C#9. Similarly, feature parameterless struct constructor is not available in C#9. Please use language version 10 or greater. Okay, so all feature with on struct is not available in C#9. So whatever features we have learned so far in these two parts were not available in C#9 language. So as soon as you make it C#10, it will revert back to its original, goodies, version. So you can easily build this application again to whatever you have been doing earlier. So in this lecture, we have actually covered a lot. We have covered file scope namespace, we have covered global using directive, and we have also built a string interpolation interpolated string handlers. Okay, we built a simple implementation of a logger class, and that's it.